Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, friends from China, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I want to start by thanking the organizers, the Dawn Group, the Ministry of Planning. They have chosen an important topic which is timely and potentially far-reaching. They've assembled the right sort of people. I think now the challenge for us is to go away from here with the motivation and the energy to put this vision into practice. I think a lot has already been said by Shaikh Sahab and Tareen Sahab. I'll try to depart from my written text and focus on some things which I think might otherwise not get said here. So what I'll do is try to give a snapshot of China and Pakistan so that the participants from the two countries can get a better appreciation of the other country. So let's start first with China. The big facts. China's GDP is about $12 trillion, number 2 in the world. Its per capita GDP is 9,000. And it trades about $4 trillion of exports and imports. I now want to highlight two things that are unique to China in the history of development experience since the times that all records have been kept. It has two features that no country has ever surpassed. First, for 40 years in a row, it has had an average growth rate of about 10% of GDP. Nobody has ever done it in the history of mankind. Second, even more formidable, during this time, 800 million people have been brought up from poverty. If you look at this, it is sensational. And I think goes to prove that the vision, especially of their leader, Deng Xiaoping, has transformed this country. And when the history of the 20th century will be written, Premier Deng Xiaoping will probably be rated the greatest leader of that century. So let's give him a big hand. China still has problems. Its per capita GDP is $9,000. Compared to that, Switzerland is $80,000. The US is $60,000. Germany is $44,000. So it's got a long way to go. Second, China faces a great deal of inequality across its country. There are parts of China, Tianjin, Shanghai, Shenzhen, where GDP is about $20,000 plus. There are other parts in the western region, other parts where the GDP is less than $5,000. So they have to deal with this situation of tackling regional inequality. But they have done this amazing achievement based on two very important things where we can learn from them. The first is they're focused on their people. And the second is they have traded with everybody. If you look at India, for example, China is India's biggest trading partner and exports $68 billion to India alone. And India, on the other hand, has increased its exports to China in last year by 40%. So here's a lesson for those countries who are aspiring to be like China, who are aspiring to bring their people out of poverty, and who are trying to learn the lessons of development. Let's turn to Pakistan now. Pakistan has a GDP of about 0.3 trillion. Its per capita GDP is $1,630. Its growth rate is about 5%, roughly half that of China. And here are 2 or 3 features about Pakistani history. As a student of Pakistan, what are the big facts about Pakistan? Which are there no matter who is in power, whether it is the military or the civilians, whether it's the N or the P, PP or anybody. These facts are there no matter what. The first is, from the beginning of its history, it's been mired in war and conflict. Whether it's a difficult neighborhood, whether it is the Cold War, whether it's the Soviet-Afghan war, whether it is the so-called terror war, it has not had a moment of peace. And this obviously has consequences for its expenditure management, for the way sometimes that shadow is cast upon our society. Second, Pakistanis do not like to do business with anybody. From 1947 to 2017, they hardly trade with anybody. And hardly anybody likes to partner with them. I'm sorry to put it like that. But if we are going to not level with each other, there's no point getting together. So this is another big feature. And if we are going to somehow transform ourselves, we have to figure out answers to these very fundamental questions. Otherwise, we can talk about the road from Gwadar to Kashgar and, maybe having one more port. And like Ishrat Saab said, it's $3 to $4 billion a year. For a country with 210 million people, it's not going to cut it unless we do many other things. The other feature of Pakistan is that we have not figured out a way how to go from one government to the other. Changes in government in Pakistan are always costly. And whatever gains are made in the first 3 to 4 years of any good government, they are diluted in the later 2 to 3 years of the government. So no growth spurt in Pakistan's entire history has ever lasted for more than 4 years. Whether it was in the early 60s, whether it was in the 80s, whether it was in the 2000s, and we have to figure out how to convert these growth spurts into long-term trends. I leave it at that. A last thing I want to say about Pakistan is its relationship, which makes Pakistan unique, is its relationship with China. I don't think any two countries in this world are as close as Pakistan and China. And I've had the opportunity to visit China, meet with their leadership. We were the first people from Pakistan to meet President Hu Jintao when he became the president of China. And we had a meeting, and after the meeting, the president asked me, "What do you think?" "Hafeez, batao." मैंने कहा, "सर, ये ऐसे लग रहा है कि हम एक दरिया के किनारे प्यासे बैठे हैं." I said, "It's like Pakistan is sitting beside a stream but is thirsty." And this is another point we need to think about. If we are never going to learn to swim, how are we going to enjoy the stream? I am being asked to accelerate, so let me go quickly to the initiative, the Belt Road Initiative. Already Tareen Saab has talked about it. It's a $4 to $8 trillion initiative, opening all of Europe and Africa and Central and East Asia to China. The CPEC is a very small part of it, but from Pakistani point of view, it's a great opening. So let's get that out of the way. Of course, CPEC is a good idea. Of course, it's good for Pakistan. The question is the following. Is it going to yield low level of benefits, or is it going to yield a huge level of benefits? Is it going to be a transaction, or is it going to be a transformation? And I want to list some of the things that, in my view, are very important if we are going to make this a transformation as a platform, as a taking off board, rather than simply 2 roads and 6 power plants. So the first thing is that there's a lot of issues of implementation that already have been mentioned. The second point is that we have to worry about how this will impact Pakistan-China relations. Because Pakistan is a democracy, it's noisy, people can talk, television is free, and we have an opinion on everything. So we have to ensure that the Chinese-Pakistani relationship strengthens and does not get weakened as issues come up, and we need to deal with them with candor. Okay. I guess since my time is up, or I'm being told to, accelerate, I'll try to finish by just saying that sound economic management, that CPEC is not a substitute for sound economic management. And again, if we are to learn from the experience of others, we have to ensure that we perform what's the lesson of development? First, try to do it with alliances. And the real message I want to give is that if the CPEC is going to transform Pakistan or be a conduit towards that, it cannot be based solely on China. Unless it's a China plus strategy. If the Central Asians, if the Africans, if the Europeans, they are not going to participate in the economy of Pakistan, just like they did in the economy of China and of other East Asian countries, then we are not going to be able to get out of this 5 to 6% growth trap. And so we have to figure out how are we going to motivate the Germans and the Kazakhs and the Australians and whoever. Because yes, there is 40 billion available from China, maybe 60 billion. But there are hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars available from everywhere that are looking for opportunities. So unless we can tap into those, we are going to be somewhat stuck in our current predicament. So let me just end here and again want to congratulate the organizers and look forward to a dialogue over the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.